Hi, my name is Nikita, and today we're going to carry on in our series on setting up a center of excellence. And today we're going to talk about resources. Now, before we move into the topic, let me give you a short background on this. So, I have interviewed close to 400 individuals for Anaplan modeling roles, out of which 150 claimed Anaplan experience. And I have managed probably 40 to 50 individuals over the last 6 years with the platform. So I don't know a thing or two on the topic. So I'm going to share some of it with you today. Now let's move on to the setup that Anaplan puts into the different programs. And this screenshot that I've done, this is from the YouTube video. This was also part of the Master Anaplan certification path, which I took about a year ago. And in this setup, what I'm going to cover, those would be the modeler roles. So certified master Anaplanner, you can see in the center of it, or solution architect, or pool of model builders. So this would be your working bees in your honeycomb, right? And we'll briefly touch the business SME roles. So in the setup, what I would like to highlight first would be the role of a business analyst. Now, if you come from the background with a different platform, or say bespoke programming platforms or programming languages, usually you would have two roles coming hand in glove. So you would have your developers and you would have your business analysts. Now, on this picture, you can see that there is no BA role shown. So it is implied that either a BA part of the job is laid upon the shoulders of your model builders, or it could be business SMEs. And actually, as per Anaplan way, business SMEs should be the guys who would write your user stories. Sometimes this setup doesn't work due to the shortage of time of business SMEs. I actually am very happy for those guys who managed to use this setup properly. And I mean, the business guys actually have given and dedicated enough time to actually do this role. But in my experience, very often you still need a BA. Now, what do we do with that role? The BA is equal to a modeler, and I've seen different setups with different customers, and in my previous workplaces, sometimes your BAs are equal to modelers, so they sit on two chairs at the same time. Sometimes you have modelers and BAs separately. Now, again, I'm being very non-prescriptive. They can be mixed and different combinations of how you would have them. But in general, in the organization where Anaplan tends to be a business asset, very often business analysts and modelers, those are the same people and who would do two combinations of responsibilities. When you have Anaplan as an IT asset, you might have modelers being the BA for some time, but as you progress in terms of complexity and global coverage, you will come to a point where you actually need a BA. Simplest rationale for this would be that you need someone to actually accept this from you. Before a modeler or developer, you can call them that way, before that is given to business, somebody actually has to check it. Very often business doesn't have time to think of all the dependencies that modelers and BAs might think of. Okay, so I wanted to get this behind us, this BA role, which is not present in the general setup. And let's move on to the point on modelers. I have highlighted them bold here, as you can see. I want to talk about them the most today. So, okay, what are your general approaches on getting your modelers? You can hire them or you can train them. So let's talk about these two. So let me start with a bit of a rant on Anaplan advising having a certified master Anaplanner right from the start. And I'll show you in a minute why I think this is overly optimistic. Okay, now solution architect is very likely more feasible, but let's talk about certified master Anaplanners first. And we're talking about hiring someone in-house, right? The certification path that you can find online shows you these levels before you get to a master Anaplanner. Okay, let me give a rant. So I got my first Anaplan modeling certification back in 2016, and the course that they had back then was generally a two-level program, and both of them took about 2 weeks to accomplish. And when 2 weeks are over, when you're done with the training, you got your first certificate, you think that you're ready for everything, you can do all the stuff. The reality is that you are really not ready for the real life cases to solve, because okay, everyone is hand-holding you during those courses, but when you get something real, which is very often more complicated than what you had in a training program, well, you might get lost. So that's what I usually used to say to the newcomers. Okay, finish the certification. Do not spend too much time if you get stuck, or seek help, because when you are done with it, you get your first task, that's when you actually need to grind. So the rant here is that 7 years ago it took only 2 weeks to get your first 2 levels, which they were different, they didn't cover everything, but you were only half a month into understanding that you don't know much and you need to start learning the application of what the platform offers with your real life. Now the new certification path, level 1, level 2, Anaplan way, and everything afterwards, they have been redesigned. They are done in a much better way. In some cases, they are way too detailed, in my opinion. But the great thing about this is that they let you choose what you want to take, unless, of course, you want a certificate. So I'll talk about trying to fast track your learning path if you need to do modeling, and think about certification later, but that's for the next video. Now, level 1 and level 2, without Anaplan way, in my experience and the newcomers that I've had over the last few years, usually it would take 4 to 6 weeks and full-time dedication. So you really need to spend all this time to actually get through these. And certainly you can see that this is taking a lot longer than it used to be. So previously you could take 2 weeks and then understand, okay, you don't know much, you need to start learning versus the real life. Here you are in this fairy tale of hand-holding you through the task for about a month and a half. So you actually get used to an easier life before the life kicks you in the face. Okay, now Anaplan way is also something that is recommended, because people would understand all the way at the start how it is better to apply the agile way of development versus to what they might be used to, or okay, some people don't even know the workflow of delivering things in software engineering. Okay, and all the way at the end, when you're done with the first line, level 1, level 2, and Anaplan way, you get your Anaplan certified model builder. For me, this was like the bare minimum when a newcomer would start. Okay, this is just the first bit. Now there are level 3 Anaplan certified solution architect and master Anaplanner. These can take probably about the same time in terms of preparation, depending on how proficient and experienced you are. But the differences here would be that there are certain requirements that to become a solution architect, you need at least, if I'm not mistaken, 1 year of previous experience, either with Anaplan or a different platform. And with Master Anaplanner, you actually now, well, a year ago they introduced us that you need to pay for that certification. Close to $600 US. It was, maybe it's different now, but I know a lot of guys who have not taken this master Anaplanner because it wouldn't really deliver much value to them, because they have gone through certification, recertification, through the new pass, and then when you have to pay another $600 for this, they just decided that they don't want to take it. And let's put all these things beside us. Even if we forget about this, why I think having a master Anaplanner right away from the start is overly optimistic is because about a year ago there were only 500 to 600 of those worldwide, and you can imagine that it's difficult to get someone like this. Moreover, and this would be tied to another point that I want to make, is that certification very often does not mean good delivery and proficiency. Now, Master Anaplanner is tougher than the rest of these, but still this doesn't guarantee that you will get great quality even if the person is having those certificates. Okay, so that was my rant. It's taking a lot more time to train resources than before, and having Master Anaplanners from the start, it's overly optimistic due to a shortage of such guys, and I have explained why people sometimes choose not to take it. And having Anaplan Solution Architect certification, guys, that is probably a little more feasible to get. I think a lot more people have them. I haven't seen the list. There was no such registry back then. I don't think they show it now. I even think they have hidden the list. Could be wrong. Please don't take my word for it. I just couldn't find it through basic search. But anyway, when you come back to the setup, you can see the solution architect. This is probably a little easier to organize. And even then, solution architect could be an overkill for your goals. If you just need to keep going with your existing application without much appetite for development, you might actually wait a little bit. You might find regular modulars who would actually turn into solution architect with time if you don't have huge appetite right away when you have new projects that you want to deliver and so on. So having these guys from the start could be a little bit too much. You might want to think simpler in terms of the roles that you need to cover. Now, talking about the second path of training a person, and this can be someone who you already have in-house who would learn how to do Anaplan modeling, or this can be an absolutely new person that you would hire just for Anaplan modeling. You need to think of the certification path that we have looked at previously. And let's see what you want to target. So the bare minimum that I suggest you should consider would be this, Anaplan Certified Model Builder. That's what I have done previously. Okay, and this is essentially the assessment phase of the previous steps. Now, the previous steps, just like I said, take 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the person's skills. Okay, and regardless of a person being a business asset or IT asset approach kind of guy, it takes about the same time based on what I have seen before. Okay, so if you have someone from IT, ideally you want to put that person through the assessment test where you would figure out whether the person is analytically savvy. For me, that means that person is teachable. Okay, even though there is a lot of hand holding, the person still learns things in the background. If the person doesn't have much analytical skills, then very likely, okay, that person will get a certification. Nothing would stop that person from doing it, but then later on you'll probably get poor results afterwards. So that does make sense to test people before hiring them for one Anaplan modeling job. Now, if someone is coming from the business side, then it becomes a little bit more challenging because To me, it sounds very difficult to get someone to spend 4 to 6 weeks full time on this kind of training. And what I will do in one of my next videos, I'll try to come up with another option of trying to fast track to modeling as soon as you can. And then the suggestion would be get the bare minimum skills, but then still have these levels done later on. You might stretch them across the year. It does make sense to get someone set up with such a goal. I don't know whether it's a quarterly goal, half-year goal, or yearly goal, to still get to this point where the person actually has this certification. Now, just a side note that Anaplan has such a course called Anaplan Essentials, which is probably 2 or 3 hours long, but then it wouldn't make that person a model builder, in my opinion. Coming back to the point of actually training someone, whether you already have someone in-house or you hire someone externally, do have the analytical test, at least for the new guys. Very likely, if you have someone from business being put through that analytical test, that person wouldn't be too happy about it because, okay, they already have the job. But again, up to you. Makes sense to check the teachability of a person, as I call it. Okay, and try to set the expectations, because I also have seen it with some of the customers when people would be very unhappy when new guys take so much time to actually learn, when really the duration is exactly like this. And in the past, that was one of my problems when the courses would change, and I actually experienced that shift when, okay, the previous guys took half the time that the new guys would actually take to go through the different levels. And only after actually doing recertification by myself, which I actually had to do to get the Master Anaplanner, which I actually stretched through 2 years, I realized how much detailed the new courses have become, and started to understand why it actually takes this much time. So prepare yourself, prepare the stakeholders, that whoever is going to take this training, that they will need to spend time on this. Okay, now last point, sometimes people tend to skip the Anaplan way, and I truly believe that this is wrong, because it helps you understand how to deliver things with Anaplan in an agile way, and really not everyone follows this exactly as prescribed, but it forms a very good understanding of how things ideally can be, and it might shape the ways of working, even on a very low level, to better results. Okay? Now, to summarize, again, for hiring, reassess the roles. Maybe you don't need master Anaplanners or even solution architects. 2, don't trust your candidate CVs and certifications. Now that's for hiring. Now for training, set the expectations for 4 to 6 weeks learning path duration to get at least to Anaplan certified model builder. And second, do give the analytical test to the guys who actually will get trained. And usually this would be for the IT kind of an approach. Business guys, that would be at your discretion whether you want to give them such tests or not. Okay, now just to give you a glimpse of the level 3 and the next phases. Level 3, this is predominantly for solution architects, where they actually need to prepare a design of a model, which essentially should be part of delivery of any kind of application in Anaplan, of any new model or a combination of models. And then they get this assessment when they have the design review. Okay, and Master Anaplanner, essentially that is a combination of learning the best practices and know-hows on the best way to model and get the best performance out of the model. And next thing would be related to setting up Center of Excellence, which is briefly covered as part of the courses that you need to go through before you can even apply for being tested and given the Master Anaplan certification. Okay. All right, so in the next video, we'll talk about trying to fast track to Anaplan modeling as fast as possible while still not neglecting the certification path that Anaplan has. You still need to get to at least Anaplan certified model builder even for regular modelers. That's really important. Anyhow, see you in the next video and thank you for watching.